Hello and welcome back to MAFT UK. Today we're going to be looking at ridgelines. It's only a short video, but is a ridgeline better off underneath your tarp or outside of your tarp? Ridgelines. So many different variants out there. Adjustable ridgelines, pieces of string, Amstel, Zing It, extreme lightweight gear. I don't use any of that. I use paracord. That's mine. That's all I use, paracord. Never let me down yet. Paracord's probably one of the most, for me, useful pieces of equipment I've got. So I always make sure I got plenty of it. Now, to do this demonstration, I've got to obviously put my ridgeline up, and all I've done on the far end there, because the tree is so wide, is a simple loop at the end of my paracord, and I've threaded it through the loop. Let me quickly show you that. Created that loop, thread it through, that's all I've done. And on the far end I've got my trucker hitch, which gives me the tension, and a simple half hitch holding it all together. This simply undoes like that, leaving you that. Let's bring that in, little loop there, and pull it out, gone. Whether you have a tarp underneath your ridgeline, on top of your ridgeline, it is entirely up to you. Me personally, this is my preference. I will explain why I think it's better this way later on, but the reason for the video in the first place is because I was asked a question about water. How do I prevent the water travelling down my ridgeline, dropping onto my hammock whilst I'm inside it? And I answered it, and I will show you what I did later on. So first and foremost, let's look at the tarp with the ridgeline running through, and how I set it up and how I do business this way. Now the tarp I use, or my preference of tarp, is the black Sargasso from 10th Wonder Hammocks. There are many different types of tarp out there. I'm not going into that. This isn't the most lightweight, this isn't the most expensive, this is my favourite, and that's all that matters to me. As you will be able to see, I have a internal ridgeline, and as the question said, there is a possibility for rain to run down this ridgeline and in under the tarp and continue on. This dangly bit here, that is fixed to the tarp. It enables you to hang a mosquito net off it, or put in an internal ridgeline. Rarely use those, to be fair. Now what I do, quite clearly, I use a Prusik loop, and I get my tension using this mini carabiner on there, and then the tarp sits on top of the ridgeline. Why do I do it that way? I like to use the ridgeline as extra support from my tarp. I think if the wind picks up and you've got more of a pitch, it's supported more. There's not so much pressure on this tab here. This where it's stitched in, which is giving it tension there. When the wind blows and pushes against your tarp, in my mind, I like to know that the ridgeline is also affording a bit of stability and strength to, and it's not totally reliant upon that stitching failing, which can happen. That's one of the reasons I use an internal ridgeline. Another reason I use that system is also because it depends on what type of hammock I'm using too. If I've got a mosquito net, although this tarp does have a little toggle to attach things to, I've already got the support to hang it off. So all I do is clip on my mosquito net, job done. I don't need to worry about finding another ridgeline. I'm already using it. So as long as my ridgeline running underneath, I can attach things to it, I can hang my washing off it. It's just, for me, it's a totally more practical way of doing business. If you look along the ridgeline there, you will see that the tarp is actually being supported by the ridgeline itself. So all the pressure is not on this one particular point here. That's one of the reasons I do it. That's a quite clear example of why. Now if you can imagine the wind blowing hard into that, that's a lot of pressure that joint is taking, an awful lot of pressure. So I feel it's a better way of doing business. So let's have a look from underneath the tarp. The little tab hanging down to attach an internal guideline should you wish, or mosquito net. And quite clearly there is a potential now for rain to travel along underneath here and drip down. That's counteracted by two separate things. Firstly, I've got my prusik loop here, so any rain beyond that is going to drop there. Then I've only got 4-inch maximum of exposed line to gather water, so it's going to have to be raining pretty heavy to saturate that. And finally, should I need to, and I'm going to be honest, I have never ever used them, but should I feel that there is a problem, all I do is attach another prusik loop there, and there is no way now that any water is going to transfer down that line into my hammock. Gravity will take over. So from the other side then, same principle, 100mm to or 4-inch to the prusik loop, maximum 4-inch of line to gather water. Should I have a drama, pull over my drip line, and there we are, problem solved. But again, like I've said, I have never needed to put those on, and it's not because I don't go out in the rain. A very simple solution to a great question. Now there are many different types of devices that you can use to assist you in putting up your tarp, guide ropes, ridge lines. I think one's called the Wasp, one's called the Alien or something like that. In fact, the easiest thing for me to do is put these pictures up. You have a look at these pictures at the various different devices, and I'll just stand over here while you have a look over here. So you have a look at these here now, and while you're doing that, I'll have a bit of a read. Dutch wear gear is good quality gear, and I wouldn't have it said any other way. What I'm saying is I don't use it. I don't feel the need to use it. Oops. Right, you're done. So there you go, lots of different devices, and as I said, I'm not crabbing them at all. Very good devices. They all work in their own right, and they all have a specific function. Easy for me to say. What I'm going to do now is put the ridge line on top of the tarp, and I want you to see the differences. At this moment in time, there is very little more pressure on this point, but should the wind pick up, should it start to blow, all the extra stability that you had afforded by being underneath the ridgeline is now gone. You are solely dependent upon this point now. You could argue the point, well, why do I need any line further than that point? Well, you don't. And if you look at my video where I forgot my hammock and I had to make one, I actually stopped the line here, cut it, and just put a half-inch in here to enable me to use another 8 foot of paracord. For me, in my mind, this is not a better way to do it. There's too much pressure on this point here. Fortunately, this tarp does have this little toggle which hangs down and would act as a drip for the tarp should any water go beyond this point. I want you to notice now that the ridgeline is on top, we are totally dependent upon this prusik loop and this fixing here, but also look at the angle. There is a potential in heavy rain for that to continue down along here and onto your tarp. clearly I'm trying to justify why I have my ridgeline underneath my tarp. There are many different ways to do the same job. There are many different types of tarp. Hundreds, in fact. It's what you prefer. There's not much that can fail me. When I try to analyse it, in my mind, the lack of technology is a plus here. The lack of relying on anything which isn't already there, string. All right, I've got my paracord. It's not even 550, that one. It's the budget paracord that pretty much 99.9% of us buy because it's too expensive over here in the UK. But you can get 100 meters of Happy Shopper paracord for a tenner. I think I've just bought some for a tenner. Now, you can say, yeah, but that might fail. It didn't. It supported my ass a few weeks ago. I just folded it into 4 and I hung a hammock in it. So I hung in a hammock made from that paracord. So I don't have a problem using budget paracord. Tried and tested, and it works for me. 550, a little bit expensive. The lack of technology works. I don't need anything else. It's just string, knots, bust. As I previously said, I ain't crabbing all this lovely little Gucci gear. I mean, paracord is heavy compared to things like Zing It. I've actually got a bit of Zing It over there, holding up the tarp on one of the corners. I needed an extra 5 meters, and I just had some with me, like you do. I would never confess to that being the best way. I wouldn't. There is equipment out there that is superior to this. There's a lot of other things that you may do that are different to me. I watch the Shug Emery, and his gear is completely different to that, and he does it his way. I do it my way. Nothing technically wrong with the way I do it, and there's nothing wrong with the way Shug does it. They're both right. The guy lines are pre-attached, and in the back of the tarp there's a little pocket for them to go into. Now, I did show you at the very beginning me unraveling the guy line, and now I'm going to show you how I wrap it up and do the figure of 8. It's how to hang up a rope without it knotting when you undo it. I have shown it in previous videos, but I'll just quickly show you again. You just do the figure of 8. Leave yourself enough line, pull it off your fingers, and there we go. And all I would need to do now to pull line from there is just pull it, and it will unthread itself. I'll just pull that, and that will all come out without tangling. And once I've rolled it up, put it in its pouch, seal it up, and it's good to go for the next time. No clips, no buckles, no straps, no buttons, nothing. 2 carabiners, and I didn't even really need them. That's how I prefer to do it. That's my way of hanging my tarp. Ridgeline underneath, use it to hang my gear off. No water ever gets underneath it. No water ever gets on top of me via the ridgeline. And I think it gives extra support to the tarp too. So, very short video, like I said. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful and you picked up maybe 1 or 2 tips. If you did, great. If you didn't, well, perhaps you could give me some. And before I go, I would like to say a big hello to all the new subscribers. Welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you in the next one. What have I got planned for the next one? I don't know. I know I've got some big fishing trips coming up this year. Definitely a week down at Bluebells. I've got a week in France. That's 2 weeks of fishing, solid. I know Dave's itching to get out under a tarp and get the fire going, so I would say my next video is going to be hammock based, maybe shooting, hunting, and under the tarp with a fire. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for joining me. See you in the next one. Bye bye.